starting over can be very, very exhausting, especially when you've had to do it once, twice, thrice, even 4, 5 times. Sometimes the sound of a new year, the thinking about, oh, it's January, we're starting again, we're starting a new year, might bring feelings of depression or anxiety or fear or resentment, even just towards the seasons and everybody else who's jolly and excited, like me, because I'm such a new beginning kind of energy person. But it's important. It's important to lean in sometimes to those feelings and figure out what is it about starting over that we are not really enjoying. My name is Angie Obwaka, and in this video, I want to encourage you, if you are there and you are feeling a sense of dread, a sense of discouragement, a sense of hopelessness about the idea of starting over. There's a lady in the Bible, her name is Ruth. Her story is contained in the book of Ruth. And she's one of those people who had to start over. And not just once, but a couple of times. So Ruth is a Moabite lady. So Moabites were from this tribe that was not, first and foremost, it was like an accursed tribe because of where the Moab people came from, the Moabites came from. And so they were an outcast tribe. So Ruth starting over begins with her meeting this handsome man, her husband, who is an Israelite, because his family moved to the land of Moab when there's famine in Bethlehem. And so they come on there, and Ruth marries this guy. And so, of course, it's learning, starting over in terms of marriage, starting over in terms of starting a family and learning a new culture. She needs to learn a new religion because the Israelites, of course, worshipped Yahweh, and the Moabites, had their own gods. And she's into this new family, and then her husband dies. And so now she's starting over as a widow. And not only does her husband die, her brother-in-law dies as well. Her sister-in-law's husband dies. Her father-in-law dies. And so now we're coming from a family where there were 3 protectors or 3 men. In that family unit, now there's just 3 females. They're vulnerable, they're exposed. Her sister-in-law decides to leave. And so now it's just her and her mother-in-law, okay? Another time of her needing to start over. But that's not even the worst part. Her mother-in-law has now become so bitter. She decides, you know what, I'm going back to my people. Tells her, you know what, you just go. I bless you, just go. But Ruth decides, I'm committed. I've committed to this family. I am sticking it out with this lady. She says the famous verse in Ruth 1:16, I believe, your people will be my people. Where you go, I will go. So now she has to start over in Bethlehem, okay? Remember, she's a foreigner. She's a Moabite. People know she's a Moabite, and there was some type of way they felt about these people. And so she's starting over in a new place. Not only that, Ruth was being taken care of, and the life she was living was different in Moab. Now she has to learn how to go and fend, not just for herself, but for her mother-in-law. She needs to figure out, how am I going to go and harvest? She doesn't know where to go and harvest. She doesn't know where to pick food from, where to get the wheat and stuff from. She needs to learn that. Again, starting over. She needs to eventually, the story is quite long, very fascinating. I'd encourage you to read it. But eventually there's this sort of attraction with this man named Boaz, and she is to sort of like let him know that she's available for them to, start a relationship. A whole other situation where she needs to put herself out there. Imagine, she had fallen in love, her husband has died, all these things have happened, and now she needs to be in a situation where she's vulnerable in that particular way. And, eventually, happily ever after, she gets married to Boaz, and she, has a child. She ends up being the great-grandmother of King David, who, of course, is the lineage from which Jesus comes, and she's engrafted there. But you can imagine, sometimes when you read these Bible stories, it's like, okay, it happened to that, and we fast forward. But you can imagine the day after day, the situation after situation, where you feel like, my goodness, can I get a break? My goodness, maybe I've been fired from my job. I have lost a loved one. I have lost a relationship. My children are not listening. I have been putting money in a particular place. It's lost. Whatever the situation is, as we begin this new year, let me encourage you from the life of Ruth. Ruth did a couple of things that I think we can learn from. One is that she stayed true to the commitment that she had made at the beginning. She had determined she was going to be part of this family, and she stuck it out. She stuck it out. Things went up, they went down. She decided she was sticking it out, and not just being committed to the family, but being committed to God and to God's plan and God's the worship of God, And so in the place of discouragement, do not give up on the place of seeking after God, because God is the one who can make things all right. In as much as things are looking down and disasterly and like, you know, like what hope can there be even in a new year? Yes, you've tried 2023, it was your year. 2022 was also your year. It was going to be the year of breakthrough. But let me tell you, in 2024, if you hang on to God, if you stick in the path that God has called you to, in the family of God, whether it is a family in terms of believers, you know, a community of believers, of church, and you stick it out there and you embrace that community and that fellowship, there could be the place of your redemption. The fact that she stuck with Naomi was able to give her instruction, was able to encourage her, she was able to be connected to Boaz and then become, you know, engrafted in the lineage of Jesus. Connecting with God and the worship of God and sticking that out, that is something that will help you with starting over. So this is my encouragement to you from me, from God, and from, you know, the story that we learned from Ruth, that if you need to start over again, you're not the first one to have to start over, but there is hope, there is promise. Stick it out with God. God will not let you down. God will remember you. God will write a new story for you. Stick it out in the family that you have begun this journey with, the community of believers, the people God has put around you, because in them and through them, God will be able to speak to you, to instruct you, and to be able to help you move on yet another day. The Lord bless you, and I pray that you are going to have a true awesome start to the new year and that things will work out for you. God bless you.